Okay, so I want to attach my quilt label to the back of my quilt before I add binding. So I'm just going to show you a method that I've used before, is that I just want to cut out a square from, this is the same fabric that I'm using as my binding, and I don't need a whole lot, but I know that I'm going to fold this in half and then put this on here, and so maybe just a little bit bigger than that. Okay, so we'll go up. We'll make it to here. I'm going to cut myself out a little square of fabric. This is the same color fabric as my binding. So I'm just going to cut this out. This fabric is the fabric that I used in my quilt for the hidden stars. So the hidden stars are out of this fabric, and it's the fabric that I'm going to make my binding strips out of. So it's also the fabric that I'm going to use for my quilt label. So what I'm going to do is just trim this up a little bit more into a better square here. Let's see here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll just make it an 8 by 8 inch square. That'll work. Okay. Let's see here. Cutting this little bit of salvage off the edge here. And then we'll just turn this. We can make this like 8 by 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Okay, I'm gonna take this over to the ironing board, and I just want to iron this in half. That feels like that's not quite perfect there, so I'm gonna trim this little edge off here. Okay, so I have a little square. I'm just gonna take this to the ironing board and press this. Okay, so I have this ironed. It's gonna go basically like this down in the corner of my quilt. I'll have this in the corner of my quilt. So I need to cut this out. So I had ordered these labels off of Etsy. So all I'm gonna do right now is trim this out. And it's fabric, but it's like fused just like a backing. So once I have my label cut out, what I'm gonna do is you kind of have to peel this paper off the back. Okay, so getting that paper peeled off the back. And then what I like to do is just kind of center this on here like so, because I'm gonna stitch this in the bottom corner. So I'm just gonna put it like this, because then later the binding is gonna come around. So kind of just getting this where I want it. Okay, now I'm gonna stitch it on there. Let me move over to my sewing machine here. I'm going to change out for a zigzag stitch. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna zigzag stitch this on there. Okay, so corner, stop with my needle down, pivot the whole thing. Maybe one more stitch. Turn it again. Trim off these extra threads here. Okay, so that is now stitched on. So it looks like from the back as it looks like from the front. So I'm gonna take my quilt here, And this is a non-directional quilt. If it was directional, I would try to do it on the bottom edge, but this is a non-directional quilt. So all I'm gonna do here before I put my binding on is lay this here on the edge. And then get it right down to the corner. Okay, so I've got this here. Okay, so I'm just trying to lay this here on the edge, just getting it nicely down to the corner, making sure all my edges are aligned here, because I'm gonna stitch this on. I need to go back to a straight stitch. I wanna stitch this on, and then it's gonna get sewn down again when I do the binding, but just right now I just wanna stitch this on. So stitch, back stitch, get towards the corner. I'm gonna stop with my, I got a little too far. Back stitch one. Okay, maybe one forward. Okay, there we go. Okay, stopping it right on the corner. I'm gonna turn and come down this other side. Okay. Okay. So now my quilt label is attached. And so now I can add my binding to this quilt.